In this video, I'm going to introduce you to the FN SmartFolder function that Monkey Tools provides for free and pro users. Now, this is a really cool function. It's a single entry point that allows you to feed a file path into either a from folder or from SharePoint folder solution, and Monkey Tools is going to choose which one is needed based on the file path that gets provided. It makes it super easy to change between both the .files connector that lists all of the files in the system or .contents, which just lists the files in the Active Directory that you're looking at. Makes it super easy to switch between local and SharePoint. We take all the work out of doing that part and making sure that the connectors are still going to work properly. We make your backslashes and slashes consistent because those are different between local and online versions. And you have no messing with the hard to generate SharePoint path. If you've ever tried to connect to a SharePoint folder, you know you have to connect to the root of your site and then drill down. You can provide us with the full path right to the subdirectory you want, and we'll take care of all that for you. So how does this work? Well, we're going to start here with a blank workbook. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say save as, and I'm just going to save it right over top of this local file on my C drive called SmartFolder. And we'll say save, and we'll say yes, and there we go. We now have a completely blank workbook available to us. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to inject a parameter table and function. And there we go. You can see that my folder path is cdemos. Now I actually want the CSV files from within this, but this is okay. We're going to start here. I'm now going to go and inject the SmartFolder function. And now we've got both FN get parameter and the SmartFolder function. We've got our table. We're all set up, ready to go. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to double click one of these and kind of hop into the Power Query editor, and I'm going to start building myself a solution to get to a list of files. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to start over here, right click, new query, other sources, blank query. And I'm going to start with equals FN get parameter, and I'm going to grab the folder path from my original table. You can see that returns C /demos/. Perfect. I'm now going to go add a new step, and right here I'm going to go with FN SmartFolder, open parenthesis. I'm just going to delete that one, go to the end, and close it up. And boom, there we go. You can see we are pulling our FN SmartFolder source right from our information. You can see that this is pulling from a local computer because there is a temp file, which is indicated by the tilde here. Now at this point, you can do whatever you want with this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to choose columns, and I'm going to choose to grab the name and the folder path. And then I'm going to drill down into just the CSVs folder. So there we are. That looks good. Those are the files I'm looking for. I'm now just going to go and rename this and call this files. Now, in a normal scenario, I would probably have kept the binary and combined the files, but for the demonstration purpose of this video, I'm not going to worry about that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save this one. We're going to say close and load to, and I'm going to go and load this onto an existing worksheet. Once it gives me that option, here we are. So we're going to go put this on a table on an existing worksheet, and I'm just going to go and drop it right over here in B4. And once that loads, there we are. This is going to be my files query. Okay, so nice and simple. We'll just make that a little bit more obvious. Roll that up to a 16-point font, make it bold. Cool. So there we go. This is pulling from a local folder. We can see the list of all the files that we actually have here. Now what I want to do is I want to actually go with a contents version. So this is where we're connecting directly to the folder rather than connecting to a list of files. And you'll see that things look a little bit different here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and right click my files query. I'm just going to duplicate it rather than set it all up from scratch again. And I'm going to go and delete these last two steps. So we can see here we're back to our original path, folder path to cdemos. And right now it lists all of the files here that are inside this particular folder. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to where it says source, and I'm going to add another parameter, which is false. And you can see things change just a little bit. We don't have our CSVs listed anymore, but we do have our table with our CSVs in it. And if I click on that, we can see that this has our CSVs here. Now this tends to be a much more efficient way for browsing into SharePoint in order to get to things. Not as important for a local file system, but I'm going to demonstrate that this will work with either. So here's what's going to happen now is I'm going to drill into this table of CSVs. There are my 2 CSV files. I'm going to choose columns here again. And what I'm going to do is grab, again, just the name and the folder path. Now at this point, the one thing that's different here is because I drilled into a folder, we can see the full folder path that we have here of C demos. So I'm actually just going to go and make a quick replacement on this. And here's how this one's going to work. So I'm going to go right click. I'm going to replace values here. And what I'd like to replace is I'd actually like to replace what's contained in the source step. So I'm going to go and say, let's find values source, replace with nothing. Now that doesn't work exactly very well because this puts it in as text. So I'm just going to delete these 2 quotes here surrounding source. So we're using the step name. And there we are. We're now down to just CSV. So the trick with this one is that because source returns a piece of text, I can actually use that in my replacement once I hack the code a little bit there in order to make it work. So this is going to be my contents method of drilling down. I'm now going to say close and load to. And here's what we're going to do is we're going to load this one again onto this existing worksheet. Once it gives me that option, there we are. And I'm going to go and drop this one right here in contents beside it. No, it doesn't like that. Got a plus there. Let's try and make it there. There we go. All right. Cool. So we've got the same results in both directions as we're pulling this together, but it's been relatively easy to go through and build something. You know, it'd be nicer, obviously, if it was right on the Get Data menu that worked, but we've got 2 different methods we're using to connect to our folder here. One that enumerates through every single file and every single subfolder. That's the default behavior. Another one that actually can point directly into the folder and target just the contents of that folder, which is a little bit quicker. Now, here's the thing, though. This will obviously refresh on my local system. What happens, though, if I save this into a folder that's syncing to SharePoint and it now wants to connect to a different system? Let's find out. I'm just going to go and save this into a SharePoint syncing folder. All right, so here we are, and as you can see, we now have a SharePoint path that is much longer to get to where we need to go. Now, if you were connecting to a SharePoint folder originally with Get Data from SharePoint folder, you would need to actually break this down so that it's the entire thing up to the Monkey Tools add-in you see here that goes to connect to the site, and then the shared document and everything after that needs to be navigated through individually with filtering and some kind. So let's go and take a look, if we go over to our other sheet here, and see what happens if we now try to refresh both of these solutions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to refresh all, and at this point what we see is it pops up asking us to declare the privacy levels for the workbook, and this is to be expected because this is now stored on SharePoint. I'm going to make it organizational, which is the way I've got my SharePoint site set up, and now when I hit save, what should happen is it should now go through and refresh these files, and if everything works, there should be 3 files on the SharePoint site here instead of just 2. And here we go, we can see that everything indeed just worked. Had to declare the privacy levels, but that's it. We've now got something that allows us to smart switch between local file paths, SharePoint file paths, .files, and .contents, all from a single function that's fairly easy to use. And what gets even better is if you're on a pro license, we make this even easier with the SmartFolder Monkey. Thanks for watching this episode of Using Monkey Tools. To get your own Monkey, visit our website at monkeytools.ca. Or if you subscribe to Skillwave's Self-Service Business Intelligence Academy, you'll get a free annual pro license included with your subscription. And remember, Monkey Tools was developed to support better Excel and Power BI solutions. If you want to learn how to really master these tools, you should definitely check out our full course catalog at skillwave.training.